ask you about something that's in the news a lot right now. You've been really prolific over the past few years being the head of the Intel Committee, and you defended, promoted, you even read into the congressional record the Steele dossier. And we know last week the main source of the dossier was indicted by the FBI for lying about most of the key claims in that dossier. Do you have any reflections on your role in promoting this to the American people?
Well, first of all, whoever lied to the FBI or lied to Christopher Steele should be prosecuted, and they are. And unlike in the Trump administration, if they're convicted, they should go to jail, not be pardoned. So Donald Trump pardoned Roger Stone for lying. He pardoned Michael Flynn for lying. If people lied to the FBI, they should go to jail. But at the beginning of the Russia investigation, I said that any allegations should be investigated. We couldn't have known, for example, people were lying to Christopher Steele. So it was proper to investigate them. And let's not forget what we learned in that investigation. We learned that the Trump campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, was giving internal polling data, campaign polling data, to Russian intelligence while Russian intelligence was helping the Trump campaign.
And to be clear, he was fired halfway through the campaign.
Well, he may have been fired, but the effort to get Russian help continued, and even beyond the effort to get Russian help,
but you may have helped spread Russian disinformation yourself for years by promoting this. I think that's what Republicans and what people who entrusted you as the Intel Committee chair are so confused about your culpability in all of this.
Well, I completely disagree with your premise. It's one thing to say allegations should be investigated, and they were. It's another to say that we should have foreseen in advance that some people were lying to Christopher Steele, which is impossible, of course, to do. But let's not use that as a smokescreen to somehow shield Donald Trump's culpability for inviting Russia to help him in the election, which they did, for trying to coerce Ukraine into helping him in the next election, which he did, into inciting an insurrection, which he did. None of that is undercut. None of that serious misconduct is in any way diminished by the fact that people lied to Christopher Steele.
No, I think just your credibility is.
Into inciting an insurrection, which he did.
So there's clear evidence on the issue of collusion, and this adds to that body of evidence. There's ample evidence of collusion in plain sight, and that is true.
Have Democrats found any evidence of collusion?
Yes, we have. You can see evidence in plain sight on the issue of collusion, pretty compelling evidence. And there is significant evidence of collusion. There is ample evidence, and indeed there is, of collusion of people in the Trump campaign with the Russians. I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy. All of this is evidence of collusion. There is significant evidence of collusion between the campaign and Russia.
Even at the time, the whole thing seemed absurd. Now we know it was worse than absurd. This wasn't, in fact, what we thought it was, history's longest episode of mass hysteria. It was instead an elaborate and intentional hoax staged by the most unscrupulous and power-mad political operatives this country has ever seen. Sound like overstatement? How do we know that? Because they have admitted it. Yesterday, the House Intelligence Committee, chaired by Congressman Adam Schiff of California, finally released 57 transcripts of testimony delivered to the committee behind closed doors, all of it during the Russia investigation. What do those transcripts reveal? We're not going to ask you to trust us on this one. It's too important. So instead, we're going to quote directly from the transcripts. Jim Clapper, Obama's director of national intelligence, said this, quote, "I never saw any direct empirical evidence that the Trump campaign, or someone in it, was plotting or conspiring with the Russians to meddle with the election." End quote. Compare that to his Twitter feed. Former UN Ambassador Samantha Power, meanwhile, was asked by the committee if she had any evidence of collusion with the Russians. She replied this way, quote, "I am not in possession of anything. I'm not in possession and didn't read or absorb information that came out of the intelligence community." End quote. National Security Advisor Susan Rice said this, quote, "I don't recall intelligence that I would consider evidence." Amazing. And here's former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Lynch was asked if she saw evidence of Russian collusion, and she replied this way, quote, "I do not recall that being briefed up to me." Notice Lynch's word choice here, "I do not recall." For 3 years, our entire political system, every television show, every newspaper, all media outlets revolved around the hunt for Russian spies. We were told again and again, in order to justify this, that collusion was the greatest crime ever committed in American history. It was a crime against the state. It undermined our democracy.